I am like thee, O night, dark and naked. I walk on the flaming path which is above my daydreams, and whenever my foot touches earth, a giant oak tree comes forth. Hi, this is Nidish Vasu, and I read writings and poetry from the great saints and sages from across time to help us introspect where we are at in our lives at the moment and to help us evolve and become better students, better children, better parents, better friends, better lovers, and better humans.
Welcome to a Stereo Tales presentation. You're listening to Sages and the Madman with Nidish Vasu.
Thank you for listening into my podcast. This is the last episode of this season. The last episode where we'll read from Khalil Gibran's The Madman. Before that, we'll take a look at the last few years of Gibran's life. We all know of Gibran's masterpiece, The Prophet. It was published in September 1923. The earliest references to a mysterious prophet were found in Mary Haskell's journal from 1912. Gibran worked on it from time to time and had finished much of it by 1919. It is believed he first wrote it in Arabic and then translated it into English, and as with most of his English books, Haskell acted as his editor for The Prophet as well. In 1925, the poet Barbara Young became Gibran's secretary. Over the next 5 years, Gibran was battling alcoholism and became more of a recluse. In 1931, his book, The Earth Gods, hit the shelves, and he finished a manuscript of what became The Wanderer shortly before his death on April 10, 1931. He died from the cirrhosis of the liver. His death set off a series of events that were quite as eventful as his life. Hundreds of people attended his funeral, far too many for all of them to get into the church. To accommodate, several memorial services had to be conducted over weeks. His coffin was sent to Lebanon only in July, and because he was a major Arabic literary figure, the procession to Bishari and the associated ceremonies were absurdly elaborate. The other major factor was Gibran's will. As per his will, he wanted to be buried in his native village. He left money and real estate to his sister. He left his papers and the contents of his studio to Mary Haskell with a request that she send any materials she did not want to Bishari. He also left the royalties from his copyrights to the village. At the studio, Haskell found her own correspondence with Gibran, his other correspondences, her notebooks, and Gibran's manuscripts. She locked them, sealed the studio, and relied on Barbara Young to handle affairs in New York. Now this was a huge shock for Young, as she had no idea of Mary Haskell's existence, let alone the depth of their relationship. Barbara Young was so jealous of Haskell that she wanted to destroy Gibran's letters, especially the ones with Haskell. Mary managed to prevent her from doing so, but Young did destroy his other letters and correspondences. The most serious problem concerned Young's handling of Gibran's unpublished manuscripts. Haskell had finished editing The Wanderer after Gibran's death and sent it to Young, who undid the editing and published it as is, claiming that Gibran came to her in her dreams and asked her to do it. And last but not the least of dramas that ensued concerned Gibran's bequest of his royalties to his native village. Sales of Gibran's works were substantial, and because it wasn't clear how the village will distribute this money, it created massive issues for decades in Bishari, dividing families and leading to at least 2 murders. The Lebanese government finally had to step in to restore peace and deal with the corruption that was dissipating the funds. Gibran's body was interred in Bishari at the monastery, which was purchased by Mary Haskell and Mariana, which soon became a museum. In 1950, Haskell donated her personal collection of nearly 100 original works of art by Gibran, which is the largest public collection of Gibran's visual art in the country. Her donation made possible the establishment of the Gibran Museum, today the world's largest public collection of his artworks. In this episode, we'll do a deep dive of the poem Night and the Madman from Khalil Gibran's The Madman. I am like thee, O night, dark and naked. I walk on the flaming path which is above my daydreams, and whenever my foot touches earth, a giant oak tree comes forth. Nay, thou art not like me, O madman, for thou still lookest backward to see how large a footprint thou leavest on the sand. I am like thee, O night, silent and deep, and in the heart of my loneliness lies a goddess in childbed, and in him who is being born, heaven touches hell. Nay, thou art not like me, O madman, for thou shudderest yet before pain, and the song of the abyss terrifies thee. I am like thee, O night, wild and terrible, for my ears are crowded with cries of conquered nations and sighs for forgotten lands. Nay, thou art not like me, O madman, for thou still takest thy little self for a comrade, and with thy monster self thou canst not be friend. I am like thee, O night, cruel and awful, for my bosom is lit by burning ships at sea, and my lips are wet with blood of slain warriors. Nay, thou art not like me, O madman, for the desire for a sister spirit is yet upon thee, and thou hast not become a law unto thyself. I am like thee, O night, joyous and glad, for he who dwells in my shadow is now drunk with virgin wine, and she who follows me is sinning mirthfully. Nay, thou art not like me, O madman, for thy soul is wrapped in the veil of seven folds, and thou holdest not thy heart in thine hand. I am like thee, O night, patient and passionate, for in my breast 1,000 dead lovers are buried in shrouds of withered kisses. Yea, madman, art thou like me? Art thou like me? And canst thou ride the tempest as a steed and grasp the lightning as a sword? Like thee, O night, like thee, mighty and high, and my throne is built upon heaps of fallen gods, and before me too pass the days to kiss the hem of my garment, but never to gaze at my face. Art thou like me, child of my darkest heart? And dost thou think my untamed thoughts and speak my vast language? Yea, we are twin brothers, O night, for thou revealest space, and I reveal my soul. The madman and the night have a chat one time. He compares himself to the night in all its aspects, dark and naked, silent and deep, wild and terrible, cruel and awful, joyous and glad, patient and passionate, mighty and high. Yet, the night points out to the madman where he falls short. The madman experiences the universe and its creation in all its splendor. The birth, death, pain, pleasure, the conquered, the abandoned, the sins, sinners, love, lovers, the weak, the strong, all the fallen gods from our lives. He tells the night about it and reaffirms his likeness to the night. The night, on the other hand, says the madman's nowhere close. The madman is shown how he still prides upon his achievements and efforts. He is weak and terrified of pain, how he is not able to come to terms with his own selves in different forms, how he is weak before temptation and has still no control over his desires, how he is still trapped in the body form, locked in by the 7 spiritual centers, and how he is at the mercy of his own emotions. the knight asks the madman if he can reign over the forces of nature, over tempests and lightning. If the madman knows and understands the deep knowledge and thoughts that the knight knows and thinks of, the madman responds that he sits on a throne made over heaps of fallen gods. These fallen gods the madman referred to are all that the madman had given undue importance in his life, all that he idolized and worshipped and is done with. Things that he realizes is no longer important. He too has lived a time where he sought to be respected and loved externally. A time where he didn't look at himself, where he didn't look within. A time of ego and desire. A time he's passed through, learnt, and overcome. A phase he's conquered. He is now mighty and high, like the night. In closing, the madman says that the night reveals all that is external of itself, in the space outside, the ether where everything exists and takes form. The madman reveals all that is within, his deepest self, his soul. The deeper he looks within, the more expansive he finds his soul. Because the soul is a spark of the larger cosmic consciousness, which is eternal and endless. On this inner journey, he realizes that the external is a reflection of the internal, like twins, the same, yet different manifestations. Are you aware of how your inner and outer worlds are in sync? Are you on the journey the madman has undertaken to become like the night, mighty and magnificent? Do you feel disillusioned by the triviality of the politics of the world, of the wars nations undertake against each other? Do you feel for those fallen to fulfill the egos of their leaders? Do you feel you have control over your desires, over temptations, of your physical needs? Or do they control you? Is your love transient or pure and everlasting? Are you terrified of the unknown? Are you spending time in meditation? Are you spending time to introspect if you've changed and transformed over time? Or are you like a leaf ravaged by the storms of life? I'd love to hear your take on this poem and how you've connected with the night and the madman, or if you find parallels in your life. Thank you for listening in to this last episode on Khalil Gibran's The Madman. We'll be back next week with a new season, reading and working with the works of another sage. Please take some time out to actively be kind to yourself, to love yourself, to forgive yourself, and to be grateful to yourself for having come so far. Please send out love to the whole world so that we may all transform in love during this time of great transition.
If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast, please hit subscribe and make sure you share the link with others who'd enjoy the experience. We'd love to hear from you. You can reach us at themadman@stereotales.com with your thoughts, suggestions, questions, ideas, and more. Please also write in if you'd like to partner with us or if you'd like to feature us on your blog or newsletter. Don't forget to rate our podcast. Thank you for listening and for all your support. You've been listening to a Stereo Tales presentation.